All right. Well, I think we are live, Ben. So, if anybody's watching, I seem to be the master of unscheduled live events.
Yeah, I would imagine.
I think Suter Reboot does those too, but he does them like once or twice a day. I don't go that far. But
Uh,
anyway, so
I would imagine.
I think Suter Reboot does. Okay, let me pause that. All right, I'm on the chat, and we'll see if anybody jumps. I know it's a little bit late. So we have Ben here joining in for this live discussion, and Ben had a topic. So Ben, what is the topic?
Well, I figured we could talk about what doesn't push other users to try distros like Gentoo or Arch, the things that are beyond Mint or Ubuntu or stuff like that.
Well, if we're talking strictly new users, here's the thing with new users, Ben.
Yeah.
If you point them in the wrong direction, meaning Arch, Gentoo stuff like that, and that's their first exposure. What do you think a new user is going to say? Linux sucks. It's not true, of course, but like
Yeah,
what I
it's true, but if you look at the distros like that, they're mostly terminal focused, and they're going to have a really hard time finding out what Linux is really about.
well, once again, I suppose if a beginner doesn't have any patience and just takes a crack at the first distro he or she sees, and it doesn't work out, then I suppose then there's no hope for that person, right?
Right. Because let's put it this way, Windows is not, how can I say it? Windows is good, but it's a lot of high maintenance. And Linux is not, if you use it properly. And they're not going to want to jump to Gen 2 or Arch or something like that because
Yeah,
it's a lot of work. And maintaining all those variables is not something somebody's going to want to do.
yeah. Well, the thing
And
with yeah,
it's really better to keep them with Ubuntu or Mint or Zorin or something like that. And I've played with those before, and they're not that hard. They're not easy. Well, they're easy, but they're not hard.
well, I think what we're talking about here are two things. First is the type of distro for a newbie, and then the type of desktop environment. If those
Right.
two don't blend well, and even for a more like intermediate user, because then it ain't fun using it, but especially for a beginner, if those two things don't blend well, then that newbie's gonna have a problem, right?
Exactly. Let's look at Gentoo, for example. It's hard, and if you present that in front of a user where they have to specify the use flags, the all the aspects of the system, they're not going to want to use it, especially if they use for Arch and it's a bit more pre-set up, but still has to go through all the steps in the English wiki. They're going to run away.
I totally agree. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was funny. I think it was last year. I think it was last year when I had people vote what is the best Linux distro, or and then they said Arch. I completely understand. Of course, I didn't say for beginners, but
Of course.
because Arch is completely customizable to any way you want it, I can certainly understand why that was voted the best. But if we're talking for beginners, once again, you have to narrow down the choices for beginners because if you don't, they may pick something at random. I suppose there's worse than a 50-50 chance they pick the wrong one. And what's going to happen? Ah, Linux sucks. It's not for me. Can you blame them?
Uh, Not really, because if they pick the wrong OS, they're not going to want it. And they're going to run right back to Windows and they're not going to like it. They're going to be like,
Right,
"Oh,
right,
screw this, I'm going back to Windows." And that's going to kill their experience.
go
And that's
back to malware 10. Right.
right. And they're not going to want that. And I've experienced Windows 10, and I can understand why everybody calls it that. And
Yeah.
not fun.
Windows 10 technically is fine in my opinion.
And I agree
Installed
with
it.
you.
Yeah,
And it's once you get used to it, it's not so bad. I can understand why the Linux users are all frowning upon it because it is a pain in the neck to get used to.
yeah, yeah.
But
Gaming is great as it usually is with Windows. I installed Windows 10 even on old dual core. 6 years old now. 4 gig of RAM, nothing fancy. Gaming works. You know, it's one of those things where if Microsoft would have been more transparent on the usage, on how they access, what's it called, telemetry. If they would have been more upfront, but it is what it is. So
yes, it is. And you wouldn't believe this, but I've even done Linux from scratch, and oh man, I've done it over 100 times, and it's painful. So I wouldn't even wish that upon a new user.
definitely not for a newbie, right?
Right. And I know your channel is more aimed at the new user. So if I were to present something to a user, I think I'd give them mint.
We have I am awesome 7478 on the stream. So far, you're the first and the only one watching this
Yeah.
stream, but that's okay. Like I said, this was unannounced. I just happened to be here after
Right.
going downtown to a outdoor concert. So, but
Right.
you know,
I gotta tell you, Toss.
yeah, it's
Enhanced features
11:37.
really
But I
good.
figured we would just do this jump on real quick. So, once again, as far as advice for new users, get the
I'd say
information. Don't just go to the first channel, the first distro,
no.
and don't if something doesn't work the first time, try
Don't
something
get
else. Try it
discouraged.
again.
There's plenty of Linux distros out there. You'll
Yeah.
find one. It's just a matter of research and trial and error.
We have a Thomas Reynolds in the chat. Hello, Thomas. You are second. Yes. Do I hear three? I feel like I'm doing an auction. Three. Do I see three? I see two. Give me three.
Yeah. Like I said, if you're new to Linux and you're looking for something easy, try Mint. If that doesn't work, try Zorn. If that doesn't work, there's always Ubuntu.
There are more choices now. 10 years ago. I mean, when did Linux Mint come in existence? About 2008, 7,
Somewhere
8.
around there, yeah.
And even then it was still young. But
I think it was 4.04 that they started with. I don't even remember.
their goal was always to make it as much out of the box
User
ready as
friendly.
possible, and they achieved that. And so does Zorn. You know,
I'm
Ubuntu
actually
Mate now. So Tom is asking, what is the chat about? We're talking about how new users can get exposed to the right Linux distro. You know, we talked about Linux Mint, Zorin, Ubuntu Mate, stuff like that. Don't get discouraged if it doesn't work out the first time. Obviously, if a newbie picks out something like Arch based, nothing wrong with Arch, but it's the wrong one for a newbie. So
Yes, it is.
you know,
And the
um,
same with LFS or Junk. They're not going to enjoy it. They're going to run right back to Windows.
there are choices nowadays. It's changed since I first started messing with it back in '06 for the first time. I
I
heard
was
about
in a
Ubuntu in the magazine. I think it was Popular Science or something.
yeah,
Thomas says he used
Fire.
Ubuntu several years ago. Okay.
Yeah.
How did you like it, Thomas?
I was exposed to Linux in 2008 or so with JU Linux on a podcast on TalkShoe. That was my first exposure to Linux. I didn't even know what the heck Linux was. I was just a casual user who didn't know what the heck he was
Hmm.
doing back then with operating systems. I was just on a crappy.
Well, I always thought Linux was for geeks.
Well,
Back then, you mentioned Linux, so that's for geeks, but now it's changed. And it probably was so. Until really what changed the game, I think, was probably Linux Mint and then Zorn. Made it a lot
right.
more user friendly, so yeah.
And what changed the game for me was JU Linux, and I didn't even know how to install that back then. And all I knew it was something based on this thing called Ubuntu that I had never even heard of. And
Yeah.
now I know what I'm doing. And I really feel happy that I exposed myself to Linux.
I had a stack of bootable CDs. Of course, not anymore. Now we use USB sticks. They've gotten better, faster. Excuse me, but Thomas says it was very good. Um, the only reason he went back to Win was he couldn't get a favorite program to run. Understandable. A lot of users can't switch to Windows because they got to have that specific program that just does not work well in Wine.
Well, I've had pretty good experiences with Wine in the past, and um, my first exposure to Wine was running Knights of the Old Republic and Wine as a game. The old 2003 version, I still love to this day. And now that it's been adapted to Steam, I have no reason to really worry about it.
Okay. I tried one. It just wasn't for me. I was trying to hook up my iPhone and my iPad. Really, that's the only thing I would use it for since I dual
Guilty
boot.
as charged.
Well, there you go. There you go. Thomas says
I
he
think
tried
this won't
version
work
12.
along.
Okay. Yeah, you know what? For me, it's just easy dual boot. If I have to use Windows, just boot into
Yeah.
Windows. What's the big deal, right?
Yeah.
I mean, like I back up stuff every single month, once or twice. And
And even more, guilty as charged. A Mac.
do you like your Mac?
Yes, I've never complained,
Cool, cool.
but I use it
Um,
once it works. I have Ubuntu on the steamer. I have an HP and a Mac. I have it all.
well, a lot of YouTubers, that's all they use is Mac. It's I guess more for the multimedia stuff. Um,
Yeah,
you
not
know,
only is it for multimedia, but it's for those who want something that'll just work.
yeah. Thomas says he didn't know enough to ask an intelligent question, so I could get it running.
Yeah,
Well, you know, ask away. But
yeah.
it's gotten better.
You get a little help. That's totally understandable.
Yeah, of course now there's a lot of, channels that offer help. It isn't just me. But really when I started the channel in
Yeah,
2010, there really
my
wasn't a
channel is
lot,
directed towards that.
you
I
know.
mean, I don't mind helping people out. That's what my channel is for, is to show people how to do stuff.
Right. Exactly.
Um, I've been liking the content because there haven't been people asking enough questions on my channel. I mean, I try and help what I can, you know.
Thomas, if I may ask you, what was your favorite program that you absolutely had to use, if I may ask? Just out of
Oh,
curiosity. I'll wait
right.
for him to post, but
Mhm.
for some people it may be some kind of CAD program or engineering or multimedia maybe.
I mean, if people want to ask us something, go ahead. We're just shooting the breeze here at this point.
Yeah, we won't. We'll probably wrap this up soon. So
Yeah, especially since the fact it's almost midnight and I've
yeah,
got class
yeah,
tomorrow.
yep.
So, but yeah, we're but yeah, like I said, I'm thinking about trying out the latest Soaring here pretty soon.
Thomas says you Windows 10 crashed. Can I get it back so you're back to Win 7? I thought Windows 7 support ended, right?
Not exactly. I think they extended it to 2020.
Ah, okay. He says he might try Linux again. Okay, all right. I
Well,
thought
if
it
you
was done.
do, if you have any questions or need anything, you can ask me or Cox or look up some stuff,
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
You,
okay.
and if you do go back to it, I highly suggest trying out Mint since Ubuntu has sort of become stagnant, in my opinion.
Well, Ubuntu decided to dump Unity. I kind of like Unity. GNOME requires too many tweaks,
And
um,
then just
and then
required.
those extensions break. So some of them break, and maybe it's
Then
gotten
it
better.
totally crashes your desktop. Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
worth it.
I mean, it looks slick. You remember when Ubuntu switched to Unity, and then the GNOME 3 or GNOME Shell came out back in, I guess it was back in 2011. I had to pick one. I just found Unity a little bit more stable and more easier.
Yeah,
Um,
Unity was brand new back then. It
I
was
remember, and I
buggy.
remember Linus Torvalds called Gnome Shell an unholy mess.
Yeah, and
I'll
that was
never.
about the time I think he started flipping off of NVIDIA.
Yes, yeah, yeah,
Because NVIDIA back then was
yeah,
terrible.
yeah, yeah. I know.
It's gotten a lot better.
hmm Thomas used Ubuntu with Unity. Okay. Yeah, I thought Unity was different. It worked. It wasn't quite as zippy as old GNOME 2, but it was. I think the reason why I liked it because it looked different than Windows 7. It just was different, and it wasn't that difficult to learn. I think GNOME was, maybe still is, a lot more difficult to learn. MC Strap is in the house. GNOME is an unholy mess. Okay. Well, with
And
17.10 coming out, we'll see what Ubuntu does.
yeah,
Um, yeah. William, hello. How are you?
well,
We've been discussing new users trying Linux distros, and some of the
nice.
challenges. So we have Ben on the cast again, an unscheduled live event. What we're talking about now. It's been mentioned before, of course, but I think now it's going to be interesting because Ubuntu was the one of the standards for Linux, starting with the old Gnome 2 interface. Then he switched to Unity. It was kind of a mixed bag. Uh, Probably more positive than negative versus GNOME. But now they're switching to GNOME Desktop. I don't know. We'll see what
Well,
happens.
there's always fallback,
You know.
but that's an entirely different story altogether.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, GNOME is just turned into a cluster F, if you ask me.
I did one live event one night.
Yeah,
I think I called it Windows user like myself versus challenges GNOME or versus GNOME. And I
that was
think
interesting.
we needed to install, I don't know, 10 extensions to get it up to speed. I mean, can you imagine, you know, installing Windows 10 or buying a Windows 10 machine and you have to install 10, well, I guess they don't really have extent, but something similar, 10 things to get it up and running? I don't know.
No.
And William says achievement unlocked 2 live streams by Toss. Good one, William.
That's cute.
Rose is in the house. Rose from Canada. Hello,
Oh,
Rose. And she's saying hello to Ben too. Yeah. We just thought we would jump on briefly, somewhat. Won't be on too much longer. But yeah, we've been discussing what's challenges newbies face trying Linux. My camera is yellowish. I don't know what's going on with Hangouts. It isn't just me, but I'm
no.
here. I should have shaved, but oh well, screw it. Um, but
I need to get it.
anyway,
But yeah,
um, yeah, Zorin switched their core desktop to GNOME Desktop. I just don't like it as much. So
yeah. The thing I like about them is you can make it look like whatever the heck you want.
now the Zorin Lite, the last release is cool. I just tested Netrunner. Netrunner has always looked slick out of the
I never
box.
played with that distro in my
Yeah,
life.
it's as long as I can remember. KDE, it's worked out of the box. It looks slick. It runs fine. I like Netrunner.
KDE is a very good desktop. However, I was always accustomed to KDE 4, if I remember right.
Well, the latest releases, man, they're awesome. They're smooth, zippy, works out of the box.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, I had a fun time chatting with you on this. We'll
Yeah,
definitely have to do this another time.
that's cool, man. That's cool. I think we got the message across. So,
Yeah. But we'll definitely
um,
reconvene with another show at some point because I think we covered some good ground. And well, well, thank you everybody for watching.
thanks.
And
Yeah, we'll catch you
next,
guys. You can catch me or Ben or whatever sometime in the future. So, guys, you have a good night, and we're gonna sign off. Ben, take care. Okay.
you too. Have a good night.
Okay. Bye.
Later.